In this video, we'll be discussing some of the more advanced features of the Reports menu within TPS. Now, as we've discussed and seen before, there are a very large number of reports within the program. Running those on a day-to-day basis is very simple, simply selecting the report, entering certain criteria such as dates or specified provider, and then running the report and seeing the results. However, there are parts of the reports that we can edit, such as the layout or information that appears on the report itself. So we'll go ahead and go over some of that right now. Go ahead and open the Reports menu here. And we're going to go ahead and edit some mailing labels. Let's see, patient's birthday. Now let's go with the patient's mailing labels, Avery 5160. Go ahead and run this real quick, give you an idea what it looks like for all the patients. Basically, it just prints out labels in this particular size according to the 5160 for all the patients you selected with their information. Now let's say we want 2 rows instead of 3. We can go ahead and make that change in the report. Now, before you ever make a change to a report, unless you're 100% sure about what you're doing, you should always create a copy so you can go back to it. To create a copy, simply highlight the report by clicking it, like so, and then click this Add/Copy button. It'll ask if you want to copy this report and assign it a new number. It gives you the report number here. And here we can see it's the same report name with simply the denotation of copy and then the date you created the copy. So I'm going to leave that alone for now in case we need to go back to it. When you're ready to start editing the layout of the report, go ahead and click this layout button and a new window will appear that looks like this. These are the various margins and sections of the report along with the boxes that pull the specific information. Now, we only see one box here even though earlier we know that there were 3 across all the way down. The amount of labels is determined elsewhere in the page layout. So in order to change that, we're going to go up here to our menu, and we're going to go ahead and select File, and then Page Setup. Here we can see the column numbers is 3. And over here there's lines indicating the number of columns on the paper. And go ahead and move that down to 2. And we can see the change over here on the left indicating that there's only going to be 2 columns of information, basically 2 labels. Here we see the width, spacing, left margin, etc. We can change the font here too if we'd like. Clicking this button will open up the font options. And let's go ahead and make it a little bold and a little bigger. We'll leave the printer alone and pretty much everything else. And then I'll click OK. You can see here that the area has expanded for me to work with because now we have more space due to the fact that we only have 2 columns. Before I go any further, I'll go ahead and show you what it looks like. Whenever you've made any changes to a report, you can always save and exit at the same time by hitting Control and W. Up here at the top you can see that little note as well, so if you ever forget what the combination of keys is, just look up here and it'll tell you. Control and W to save your layout, or hit Escape to cancel changes, and that'll also make it exit. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control and W, and it's going to save the report. Now here I'm getting a question by TPS, where it's going to ask if I want to apply the protection feature to this particular report to protect it from being overwritten by future Eon program updates. Basically, when certain updates are run within the program, reports who are not marked as protected will get reset to their defaults unless told otherwise. If I select yes, this will apply the protection status to this report and prevent it from getting automatically overwritten. I can of course always restore to default manually if I need to. No will save the layout, but it will still be overwritten with the next Eon update. And cancel will cancel any of the saved changes you made. I'm going to go ahead and select yes. And one more question will pop up before we're done. It'll ask if I want to use the default printer, that is, the printer assigned by Windows to be the default printer that all documents automatically go to unless otherwise told to. Or I can click no to use the specified printer. I'm fine with the default, so I'm going to hit yes. So now I'll go ahead and select my labels, run report, select my patients, and here we can see there's only 2 now. Here we have a lot of space though, and it looks a little off, so we're going to go ahead and do some adjustments here. Going back into the layout. Here, this little box is pretty much all the information that's getting put into the label. I can move these boxes, I can open them and edit the information within that it pulls, edit certain font features, and other little goodies like that. So let's go ahead and go over moving the boxes really quick. Now if I click this one, you can see here that this top rectangle is highlighted with little boxes all around it. If I click this middle section, the same thing happens here, and the bottom one here. Now if I want to select all of them at once, I have a couple options. I can start by clicking the first one, hitting and holding the Control key, and then clicking the next box, hitting and holding the Shift key, and then click the next box and the next box. Here we can see that they're all highlighted now, and if I were to go ahead and use my arrow keys, you'll notice that the box will start to move. I can hold down the arrow key to make it move a little faster. Up is up, down is down. You get the picture. Clicking off will deselect all the boxes, and my up key and down key won't do anything. I can also click and drag, and a little box with dashed lines will appear, and anything within that box will get selected. I can then click and drag the entire selected portion around, like so. If I want to move one section, I simply click it once without hitting Shift and move it around. It's pretty easy. So I'm just going to go ahead and center it real quick. Make some fine-tune adjustments. Lower it. There we go. Now let's say I want to extend this box a little. Maybe my patients have really long names and I want to make sure there's plenty of room. I have a couple options here as well. Remember that when I click this particular field or box, tiny little boxes appear on the right, top, left, and bottom. If I click that box and I drag it, the size will increase or decrease depending on the direction I drag my box. Likewise, with the same box selected, if I hit and hold the Shift key and then start pressing down on the arrow keys, right or left, the box will increase or decrease in size accordingly. Same thing goes for up and down. Up makes it smaller, down makes it larger. We're fine with that particular portion. And I'm going to make the address a little longer, and this second address as well. And there we are. If I click a box, go up here to the top to report, pick default font. I can change it if I'd like. Let's just go ahead and back up from there. Let's go ahead and hit Control W to save, and let's work on a different report now. This time we're going to walk through how to edit a fee slip. Here we have our default fee slip. What we're going to do is make another copy, just in case. And I'm going to rename this default fee slip first to something else. Perhaps something that suits my office instead. To edit a name, go ahead and click the Edit button. And here a list of all your reports will appear. Navigate on down to the fee slip. Here it is. So all you have to do is highlight it, and then delete the space you don't want. Put in whatever you do want. Custom for my office. And that's good enough for now. Hit Control W to save. And you'll notice that it still says default, because the change won't take effect until we close out the window. And go back in, search for fee slip, and there it is, custom for my office, exactly like I did. Now let's go into the layout. Here we have your basic fee slip information at the top, such as patient's code, their names, doctors, diagnoses, dates, etc. Most of the time you'll want to leave this alone, and if you do need help with it, you'll probably have to call in at Eon Tech Support for their assistance, because a lot of this is coding that you may or may not know. Here we have the basic SOAP information that's pulled in from the patient's previous SOAP note, if there's any SOAP to pull from. Down here we have the list of various exams, inventory items, and services that could be delivered. This is the part you'll probably want to concern yourself with the most, and is easiest to edit for you. Let's take this right here, this Neuro Reeducation, for example. Perhaps I don't offer that. If I want to edit it, I can go ahead and go over here to my report controls, click this giant A here, and then when I hover over it, it'll say label. Highlight that part, and remove it. Clicking off will save the change, and now we can see I don't have anything there. Maybe I want to add something I do. Once again, clicking the A for the label, placing the cursor where you'd like it, and then start typing. And go ahead and put the brackets in like before, and type in my test service. Once finished, simply click away, and it's now part of this larger label. You'll notice that these little black boxes here aren't around the service I just entered, but the whole section, indicating that this entire section of services is its own little object. In fact, if I were to hit the down arrow key, it would start to move down, the whole section. So just keep that note when you're editing this. Likewise, these little borders are their own separate objects as well. If I were to move that down, it could go past all the text and make it look pretty sloppy. So be careful when you're editing everything and make note of what is a part of what. So let's go ahead and move on to this inventory section. And let's say I don't really need all of these slots because I don't do too much inventory, but I need to keep some of them. Once again, go into label, highlight all of these, and delete them. Now I've got a bunch of blank space I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and click this outer black box, press and hold my shift key, and slide it on up. I'm going to add my own box, or rather rounded rectangle, by clicking this button. And now we have crosshairs, which will indicate where I want to click and start the box. I'll click here in the top corner and drag it out like so. Move it over. Make it smaller. Remember, Shift and the arrow keys will allow you to do these fine touches. Move it down a bit, and there we go. If I go ahead and double click in here, after clicking off, I can go to Style and change my font, apply whether it's opaque or transparent, and here we can see a sample of what's in the label. I can edit the positioning using these for really fine tuning, down to even the thousandths of an inch if you really like to get very meticulous. See, moved it pretty far down. Go ahead and slide it back up real quick. I can click this box right here to create lines too. Again, I get crosshairs, and then I can click and drag to create my line. Horizontal lines, vertical lines, you name them. I'm all finished here, so I'm going to hit Control W, click yes, and yes again, and now my report's been saved. Now when I go to use that fee slip, it'll have my personal customizations to it. Let's go ahead and look at one last report and one last type of edit. This time, we're going to use the attorney itemized statement. I'm going to run this. Go ahead and preview it. And here we have the statement. Now maybe you want your personal office banner or logo up here in the top left. Give it some character, color, or whatever you have in mind. Go ahead and hit escape out of here. And I'll exit it. And once again, I'm going to create a copy. I'm going to work in the copy for now. Click layout. And here we see we have some space where we can add an image. First, you're going to want to make sure that your image is stored on your server, because if it's not stored on your server, but instead one of the workstations, when you put the image into the report and try to run it from a different location, you won't be able to see it on the report because TPS is going to save that exact file path for where the image is stored. Make sure you put it somewhere on the server that all the computers can see. Usually putting it in the TPS folder is a good bet because all your computers are going to be looking to the server and the TPS folder to run TPS to begin with. Once you have a picture in mind and it's located in a generalized location, go ahead and go down to your report controls over here. Click this one when hovered over that says picture/OLE bound control. And here you'll get some crosshairs. And then once again, just click and drag. And it'll offer to find an image for you. This control source here is your image locator. So we can click this button and browse the folders and files for a particular image. Select this TPS splash for now. Click OK. And here we can see the image is now in our report. Now, this is a very large image. If I wanted the whole thing to display, I'd have to make it pretty big. I'm not going to do that. Let's keep it over here in the top left, and we're only going to see that small portion of it. If you have an image you'd like to put in, make sure you do some editing beforehand in some sort of image editing program, such as Paint or something a little fancier like Photoshop, before you're ready to put it into the report. I'll go ahead and save it like this so we can see what it looks like. Run my report. And here we have the image in the top left. Pretty simple. That concludes the video on editing reports and their layouts. Now it's going to take some getting used to. Unless you're a whiz at layouts, you're not going to get it on your first or second try. But do keep trying, and if you of course run into any major hurdles, please give us a call here at Eon and our tech support department will gladly help you out.